Hey friend, and welcome back to the Alex Makes VR podcast. In today's episode, I want to talk about selling VR when you don't like selling. Are you the kind of person that really wants to work for yourself, but you just hate the idea of having to ask someone else for money for what you do? Are you the kind of person that is really confident in your ability to make really awesome VR and 360 and virtual tours, but you just can't stand the idea of picking up the phone and trying to sell yourself or sell your services? If so, I believe that this episode is for you. So hang tight, because I'm going to give you all of my kind of candid advice around the topic as someone who admittedly has gone through different stages in my life of loving sales and hating it, and then back round to loving it. I'll talk all about that in this episode. If you've got a subject or a question for future episodes though, please let me know. I love to take suggestions. I want this to be as helpful for you as possible. That's what it's here for, to provide value. So if you've got a question or a subject, please reach out to me at Alex Makes VR on Instagram and Twitter. You can sign up for the newsletter, which comes out every week, and it basically lets you know when the episodes are live, but it also gives you a rundown of some of my best advice in that email. So if you want to sign up for the newsletter, do so at alexmakesvr.com. So I want to tell you a story, and I believe that I've referenced this story before in a previous podcast about sales, but I feel like it's really powerful because a couple of years ago, I think now, I went to lunch with a friend, and she had just set up her own company, and totally nothing to do with technology. In fact, it was in recruitment. And she had always known that she'd wanted to be an entrepreneur. She'd always been involved in entrepreneur society. She'd had little side hustles throughout her whole life. But she really wanted to start her own thing. And when she did, she really enjoyed it. But she kind of said to me over lunch, Alex, I love working for myself, but I just really hate selling. I don't know how you do it. I just don't love it at all. And I was like, well, that's funny. Let's unpack that, shall we? Why don't you like it? She's like, I just feel awkward about calling people or emailing people, or, I don't know. I just don't really like it. And I was like, well, do you believe in the service that you're providing? And she kind of paused, and she's like, well, yeah, of course I do. I think that what I'm doing is really going to change the game in this specific niche in recruitment. I was like, great. So you believe that when you go into, a company to pitch your services, you genuinely believe that what you're offering is better than any competitor, right? She was like, yeah, I guess so. Right, okay, cool. And so at the moment, when you go into these companies and you're trying to sell your services, what are you saying? She's like, well, I'll go in there and I tell them about about what I'm doing and the company and my prices and that kind of thing. And I was like, okay, so this is classic to me anyway. And this is just one woman's opinion, of course, but this is the classic downfall of people who get into business for themselves, or they've never done sales before, and so they think that, well, I need to go out and get work. So how do you get work? You go out and you start talking about yourself, you have to big yourself up, you have to make yourself look like you're the biggest and the best, and all of this stuff. And the truth is, maybe that works at some point, but I feel like you're going to have to be a particular kind of dickhead to enjoy that. If you were having to go into every single potential client and pitch yourself every single time and go in there and big yourself up and have to list off all your achievements to try and convince them to do work with you, of course you're not going to like sales. That would suck. I 100% would not like sales if that's what it was. But this is the thing, that is one particular kind of sales. And don't get me wrong, there are salespeople that do that. And if you're like me, you find it very annoying. So no wonder you don't like sales if that's how you're going about it. But that's not really what sales is. Sales, in essence, is about figuring out whether or not you can solve someone's problem. That's all sales is. Sales is, do I have the solution for your problem? And do you trust me enough? And is this the right time? And is this the right price point? Is this valuable enough to you to want to solve that problem with me? That's what sales is. Ultimately, sales is about building a rapport with a company or a client, understanding what that business needs and how you can solve that problem. So if you went into, let's replay that scenario, and I'll bring it back to tech rather than recruitment, because obviously it's very different. But let's say you go into a business and you're pitching your immersive services. The last thing you want to do is go in there and start talking about, oh, I've made these virtual tours, or I've done these 360 videos, and check out my portfolio, blah, blah, blah. That isn't what you should be doing in the first instance, okay? And obviously, the first instance, you probably won't be in person anyway. You shouldn't really be in person. I don't really believe in like cold calling or cold showing up at businesses. I just think that's the equivalent of someone trying to call you whilst you're having dinner, or like showing up at your door whilst you're trying to have dinner. It's like, who in this day and age is doing stuff like that? Like that, when does that work? That's just really annoying. How are you going to get me from you're inconveniencing me to, sure, I'll give you £3,000? Like, it's not likely to happen. So although sometimes, especially if you're building portfolios, sometimes, yes, you can go into businesses, but I really would recommend that you go down the route of like emailing first, to be honest, or, you know, reaching out on LinkedIn or something like that. But anyway, coming back to the metaphor. So you metaphorically go into this company or this business, and instead of going in there and being like, me, look at me, look at all my stuff, look at all my achievements, look how good I am, and don't you want to work with me? No, the first thing you should be doing is going in there and understanding them. You want to find out about their business. You want to find out about their problems. You want to find out about, why is it that they're even interested in 360 or virtual tours or VR? Like, why, or whatever the immersive tech is that you work with, what is it that is making them interested in the first place? Because if you've reached out and they've like engaged with you, which is where I would argue, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, guys. This is absolutely one of those episodes that's going to be a bit all over the place. When you first reach out, that's marketing, okay? Marketing is where you put yourself out there to try and make people aware of you, your business, your services, right? So marketing is getting people to become aware of you. Sales is where someone's aware of you, and now it's that kind of little dance of working out whether it's a good fit. Either is the product a good fit? Are you a good fit? Is the price a good fit? That's sales. So I just wanted to define that before I carry on. So when I'm talking about selling, I'm talking about you've reached out to a business or a company or whatever, and they've engaged back with you, showing some kind of interest, right? So sales is just about finding out all about that person's business so that you can then best position your services back. And the truth is, sometimes you will have those conversations and you won't want to sell to that company, because the truth is that if a company doesn't have the infrastructure to support a virtual tour or 360 video, if they are not going to be able to afford to invest in a headset so that they can actually showcase the video that you've made for a headset to their customers, then realistically it would be kind of unethical to sell to that person, right? And this is the thing with sales. You don't have to sell to everyone, right? You want to find people that will actually get value from your services. That's where you want to focus your energy. So if you are talking to a company, and it's very obvious very quickly that actually for the amount of money they would have to spend with you, they aren't actually going to get much value back from you. For example, if a new company was like, yeah, we're interested in your virtual tours, this sounds really interesting, but they don't have a website to host it on, or they don't have someone that could, maybe they don't even have like an internal marketing person, then you really would want to dig deep as to like, okay, well, how are you planning to use this virtual tour? Because it would be absolutely pointless in them spending $1,000, $5,000, $10,000 investing in a virtual tour if then they didn't know what they were going to do with it, right? So the reason, coming back to this whole thing of like, how do you sell immersive services if you don't like selling? The truth is that you want to get to a point where you are so sure that what you're delivering will give that person, that business, that company value, that it doesn't even really feel like selling anymore. It just feels like you're problem solving, which is a really lovely feeling. You know, when like a friend's really upset and you're the shoulder that they cry on and you offer them a piece of advice and it cheers them up. And it's like, oh my God, you've solved my problem. Like that feels great, doesn't it? It feels great to be that person in someone's life, to solve their problem. That's all you're doing. So don't reframe it. Don't think of sales as this kind of icky, uncomfortable thing where you need to go out and like brag about yourself. Because actually, if you're doing that, you're doing sales wrong. You're doing sales like the Mad Men way, like, although I know Mad Men was more about marketing, but you get my point. You're doing it like the classic 1980s stereotypical car salesman way. And that is not what we want, especially not in 2020. Especially not when you're selling new technology that people don't necessarily understand. That's your job to kind of to understand their business and to make sure that this new tech and this new way of showcasing a business is suitable, is valuable. And then it makes sales so much easier, doesn't it? Because if you were so sure that if someone gave you $1,000, you're pretty confident that they would get 10,000, 100,000 back. That's a no-brainer, isn't it? So really, I guess also like educate yourself on what the value actually is of your service. Because of course you go into business for yourself because you want to live life on your own terms, and you want to be able to have like no ceiling to your potential earnings. But also educate yourself about, if you're going in and selling virtual tours, then look up some statistics about what virtual tours actually offer. Look up some research around the benefits of companies that have implemented virtual tours. And it's really easy to do that because, generally speaking, the platforms that are selling you virtual tour software, for example, like something like Matterport or 3D Vista or Cupix, all of these companies, obviously this is very specific to virtual tours, but all of those companies will have blogs on their website because they're trying to help you sell virtual tours so that you will buy their platform. So usually those blogs have some really good insight into what the benefits of virtual tours are. But also, like, we're living in the day and age now where you could literally go and look at anyone's marketing because everyone's marketing is online. So when I did an episode a few episodes back about the statistics that will sell VR for you, one of the main ones that I was pulling statistics from was in fact a 360 and virtual tour provider in America, and they just had phenomenal like reports and statistics on their website. So I was like pulling from that. But if that's the case for like one company, that's most likely going to apply across the board. So educate yourself in how your services will actually bring value, and be confident in that, because that's the key to good sales, is actually believing in your product, in believing that you can solve someone's problem. So I hope that's helpful. This is just kind of like scratching the surface of like this, but people keep coming to me, and generally speaking, people are pretty confident in the actual practical production side of things, even if they're getting their feet wet. You know, you guys are really good at clearly like upskilling and teaching yourself how to make your product as good as it can be in terms of like photography quality and edit and coding. Like you're all brilliant at that, but it seems to be that most of you are struggling with this idea of becoming a salesperson, which is essentially what you are when you work for yourself or you run a business, until you can afford to like bring someone else in to help with that side of things. So anyway, I hope this helps for all of you who are struggling with that. And if there's any other specific questions that you have around sales or marketing or the differences or anything, I'm an open book. I'm here for you. I want to impart my love of sales and love of business onto all of you. So please, there is no subject that is off limits. Please message me on Instagram and Twitter. It's Alex Makes VR. If you are enjoying the podcast, it would mean the world to me if you would screenshot the podcast that you're listening to right now and share it on your social medias, tagging me. Would love, love, love to get the word out about the podcast. And that would really help. And it also, it helps when you post about it, it then helps other people discover it. It then helps drive traffic to the podcast platforms, which then in turn means that they show it to more people. It's all a massive circle jerk of love, basically. A circle jerk of love in the VR world. That's what we want. That would mean the world to me if you would do that. I hope that you are having a fantastic day wherever you are in the world, and I will see you in the next episode.